Oh, thank you, Sean, again for the introduction. And these are my opinions. And welcome everyone back to the Educated Retirement for the second hour, the second half of our trip. And I'll start off again by wishing everyone a great Thanksgiving, a happy Thanksgiving. And let's give thanks that we are all still here and enjoy it as much as we can, even if we work, like some people I know working, like Sean, and keeping things going here. So have a great one. Now, also want to thank Valerie Bandezilver for a great 30 minutes last between 3:30 and 4. She's really a great person. And look forward to us talking with her again. Sometimes she's on for more than a half hour when she's on, but she is so busy right now that, that's good. Anyway, who else used to be busy and whose birthday is it today? Because we do, I am the guru for reverse mortgages, but we talk more about on this show we make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of me, but we make sure that what we do talk about most of all is nostalgia for us oldies. And most of the nostalgia, a lot of it goes back even before me, if you can believe that. That ain't easy to believe. So Larry King was born on this date in 1933, and he earned his wings in 2021. So I know you know what he looks like. Let's start off with, we'll start off with that one. Is that a great picture of Larry King or what? That's right. That is a, what do you call these pictures again?
Mugshot.
Mugshot, yeah. Now, once I was taken into the Hollywood precinct.
He kind of looks like Belushi.
What's that?
He kind of looks like Belushi a little bit.
Yes, he does. He does. But I was once taken, well, I'll tell a story about how I was arrested in 3 different countries, but NASA Nelly gets upset about that, so I won't. But in the Hollywood precinct, I was, roaming around rooftops because I was looking for a place to do some photography. But I was taken in for suspicion of robbery. I was kicked out before the sun rose. But they didn't know how to they were having trouble with the camera, so I had to take my own mugshot. I wish I had a copy of that now, but I don't. Anyway, here's a better picture of Larry King, very professional. Look at him with a cigarette, of course. That was the Edward R. Murrow look to him. But he was an American television and radio host. And in his career, he hosted over 50,000 interviews. I think that's more than I have here. Lawrence Harvey Ziegler was born in Brooklyn. His parents were Orthodox Jews who immigrated to the U.S. in the 1930s. His mother was a garment worker, shmata worker, as us Jewish people would call it, shmata meaning rags. And his father was a restaurant owner and defense plant worker, so got around. When his father passed away, his mother and family went on government welfare, and when he graduated from high school, he helped support his mother. He desired to work in radio broadcasting from a very early age and went to Miami and gained his first job in radio. Any more pictures? I don't know. He was hired to clean up and perform miscellaneous tasks, at a radio station. When one of the station's announcers abruptly quit, King was put on the air. His first broadcast was in 1957 as a disc jockey. He acquired the name Larry King when the general manager claimed that Ziegler was obviously it's too difficult for me to say, to remember. I think that's pretty easy to remember. But anyway, he legally changed his name to King from an advertisement for King's Wholesale Liquor. All right, he put his history in the right place. To begin to conduct interviews on a mid-morning show called Pumpernickel's Restaurant at a morning show at Pumpernickel's I guess that was the name of it, too. Pumpernickel's Restaurant in Miami. He would interview whoever walked in. Wow. His first was with a waiter at the restaurant. That's great. 2 days later was singer Bobby Darin for a concert that evening. Darin was King's first celebrity. Larry became friends with Jackie Gleason. I wonder if he was into UFOs as much as Jackie Gleason was. He was, you think?
I think so.
Yeah, so, oh yeah, he was, because he had a lot of people on his show talking about UFOs, as I recall. And as he tapped his show there in Miami with Jackie Gleason, he considered Jackie as his mentor. And of course, Ralph Cramden is my mentor, a little different than Jackie himself, but you can see the difference. The Larry King Show was an all-night nationwide call-in radio program in 1978, kind of like Art Bell with his Coast to Coast AM. Larry King Live was a television show that began in 1985. He hosted guests, here we go, such as UFO conspiracy theorists and alleged psychics, in addition to the entertainment industry. We have here's another picture of him with, this should say KMET on it. It doesn't right there, but I should have changed that, shouldn't I? I should have put a little KMET sticker over that radio call letters there. Anyway, that's what he looked like. He became the longest running television show hosted by the same person on the same network in the same time slot, and was recognized for it by the Guinness Book of World Records. So Larry King also wrote a regular newspaper column in USA Today for almost 20 years. I am so old, I remember when USA Today first came out. Let's drink to that. And people were talking about a newspaper for the whole country. How could that be instead of for the city? He taped over 6,000, I'm tapping my head over that. He taped over 6,000 episodes, won the Peabody Award for Excellence in Broadcasting for Radio and Television, an Emmy, and 10 Cable Ace Awards, to name a few, as well as being introduced into the National Radio Hall of Fame. Sean, you think, what are my chances for the National Radio Hall of Fame? Don't answer, that's okay. King founded the Larry King Cardiac Foundation, a nonprofit organization which paid for life-saving cardiac procedures for people who otherwise would not be able to afford them. Great thing. I wonder if his father had passed away from heart problems. I don't know at this point in time, but I know when he announced he was leaving his show, I couldn't believe that someone who, and I didn't watch him every time, I just know he was there. And I think he was on CNN near the end there, wasn't he, for the last several years? Mm-hmm. It was like something that was a part of normal life. How can someone like that retire? And then he passed away, which was another thing that was hard to swallow. Johnny Mercer, getting back to music here, John Hammond Mercer was an American lyricist and songwriter and singer. And speaking of music, Sean reminded me that at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning tomorrow, as you're getting ready and getting seated and ready to listen to Grandpa Speaks, there is a show, The Card King or Card something, at 8 o'clock, and he's going to have, I believe it was the drummer, correct me if I'm wrong, from Vanilla Fudge on. So I'm looking forward to that. You should be too. He was also a record label executive who co-founded Capitol Records with two other music industry businessmen. And where's that picture of Capitol Records? Let me get that. I know it's here somewhere. Anyway, I can't find it, but it'll show up. Co-founder was lyricist Bobby De Silva, who wrote the words to popular song Avalon, April Showers, Button Up Your Overcoat, California Here I Come. If you knew Susie, look for the silver lining to mean a few. Got that picture?
Oh, not a
I know it was printed.
No.
I know it. I saw it. Well, so be it. I think most of us know what the Capitol building looks like. To me, it still looks like a stack of records. And they always say, no, it's not. But yes, it looks like a stack of records to me. And it's got a little thingy in the middle, which would be, the thing that sticks up that looks like would come out of older record players. And there is a beeping. I think there's a red light that I think it's SOS, but I'll have to look at it again. And SOS is ... in Morse code. So we'll have to have a look at that. But here he is with a Capitol Records, that is Johnny Mercer. And looks like he's announcing. I don't think he's singing, but boy, did he write some lyrics. And of course, he worked mostly with Henry Mancini that we remember. So he's probably singing Moon River right there. But in the Capitol Records venture was co-founder Glenn E. Wallachs of Wallachs Music City in Los Angeles. Here's another picture before we go on too far of Johnny Mercer at the piano and a pen in his hand, posing. I wonder what does it say? No, can't read what he's writing. But boy, did he write a whole lot of lyrics for a whole lot of songs, for a whole lot of composers. So Wallachs Music City was what one of the co-founders of Capitol Records came from. And boy, do I remember Wallachs Music City. I specifically remember, and I don't know why, going there one time with my cousin David Schneider. And I don't know whether David remembers this. He'll have to tell me. But I remember going, that was Sunset and Vine. And I think this is the one in Sunset and Vine because that's the only one I remember. And buying records and just loving being there. But Wallachs Music City stuck around there from 1940 to 1978 and was one of the first record stores to display cellophane-sealed albums in the racks, and they stayed open till 2 a.m. So do we have another picture? I love this because this is something you'll find today. Record stores are thriving today again. And there's one, but here's something we don't get because they don't want us ruining records anymore. Do you remember, I don't know if you're old enough, anybody, to remember the booths? There's a line of booths. I guess they all had glass so they could see if you were screwing around with the records. And you would sit in this booth and listen to a record and decide whether you wanted to buy it or not. And of course, I remember that scene from Strangers on a Train, that Hitchcock movie. Anyway, but that's it. And I remember spending so much time in there. Let me show this too. Here is a 32-cent stamp. Boy, 32 cents. That wasn't that long ago. Johnny Mercer, a commemorative stamp that his poem or face was on. And when I speak Yiddish, I'm not sure whether I'm cussing or not. I hope I'm not. Because all I know is the words. I don't know what they mean particularly. But because that was spoken by my parents when they didn't want me to hear what they were talking about. So Johnny was born in Savannah, Georgia, where one of his first jobs at age 10 was sweeping floors at the original 1919 location of Leopold's Ice Cream. His father was a prominent attorney and real estate developer. Mercer liked music as a small child and attributed his musical talent to his mother, who sang sentimental ballads. and his father sang mostly old Scottish songs. It is said that Mercer hummed music when he was 6 months old. I guess I can believe that. He was taken to minstrel and vaudeville shows where he heard ragtime. Mercer was among the white songwriters of his generation that were exposed to the popular upbeat black music. As a child, he had African American friends and listened to the fishermen and vendors. Also was attracted to black church services. Now, that may not sound like a big deal now, but back then it probably was, especially in Savannah, because that was the South. I mean, it sounds ridiculous when I say it, like who wouldn't have black friends or whatever, but so be it. He said later that those songs always fascinated him more than anything. And as a teenager in the jazz era, he hunted for records in the black section of Savannah and became an authority on jazz at an early age. Johnny moved to New York in 1928 when he was 19. He eventually moved into an apartment in Greenwich Village. Ooh, how nice. With a beat-up piano to play, and those are sometimes the most fun. He secured a day job at a brokerage house and sang at night. Wow, I didn't know that. So he sang and frequented the company of other songwriters to learn the trade. In addition to songwriting, which, like I said, he did I don't know that he ever wrote the music for the songs he's known for. I would have to check on that, or if anybody knows, call into the station now or whatever. He began to sing himself with orchestras, wow, and even paired with Hoagie Carmichael for a while. And I guess I can sing. Should I sing When Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, or no? Okay, I'm told I shouldn't do that, so I guess I won't. He moved to Hollywood. Once he moved to Hollywood, he began writing music for films. Mercer's big Hollywood song was "I'm an Old Cowhand from the Rio Grande." And originally, that was sung by Bing Crosby. Johnny Mercer wrote the words and sometimes, there we go, sometimes the music to more than 1,500 songs with more than 200 collaborators. But who's the collaborator we remember the most? Mancini/Mercer. He was nominated for 19 Oscars and won 4 for Best Original Songs for the film Days of Wine and Roses, Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Harvey Girls, and Here Comes the Groove. The Groom. Days of Wine and Roses, of course, I remember well. Breakfast at Tiffany's, of course, I remember well. And Moon River, of course, was the one takeaway from there, although the entire soundtrack is wonderful, like so many others of Mancini, even the ones that Mercer was not involved in without music, without words, I say, or lyrics, like Peter Gunn. But Mercer was given tribute in 1997, in the 1997 adaptation of the novel Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Film directed by Clint Eastwood. The movie soundtrack contains 14 Give Me Mercer songs. Now, I love that movie. I mean, I've seen it so many times, I can't tell you. This little statue, we have 2 of them in the backyard. They're what, about 3 feet tall, maybe a little bit less. Love the movie. I don't think there's anything inside here to look at, but wow, what a great film. Oh, and there's there's Chardonnay herself. And of course, what he did, that is what Clint Eastwood, I mean, we know Clint Eastwood loved jazz. He was a jazz aficionado, not to mention a great jazz pianist. He has himself played at Carnegie Hall, and God, we're talking about 2 of the greatest people around. Here's a little booklet that did come with that DVD, and
CD, really.
huh?
with the CD.
Oh, that came with the CD. Okay. But these are some of the songs that Autumn Leaves, Love Autumn Leaves. Come Rain or Come Shine, Days of Wine and Roses. These are all songs that were highlighted in that film. Fools Rush In, Laura, Midnight Sun, Skylark, which is sometimes you get Skylark mixed up with Autumn Leaves. They're kind of that. Now, I'm not sure, but I'm going to bet that that is Clint Eastwood's daughter who played a part in that film, because that is her last name. This Time the Dream's on Me. I love that song, especially Alison Krauss, who sang it for the movie, and is normally a country singer, but I really loved it. And her album, pretty famous album with Paige. What's Paige's first name? The guitar player. Very famous. Anyway, is just coming out again in a audiophile type pressing. And I Want to Be Around, and Too Marvelous for Words, and all of that in there. So,
which was sung by Fred Astaire.
Oh, Fred Astaire. And Clint Eastwood sang a song himself in it. So it's worth buying the CD just for that, if nothing else. So Mercer was given that tribute, and contains 14 of his songs. It's a great movie. Used some of the original people who are actually a part of it in the film itself. I believe the guy that was the actual judge in the case that was there played the lawyer, or vice versa, maybe. It's well worth seeing if you haven't, and if you have, see it again. And in either case, it's time for a break.
2, 1, ignition.
To play that, let that play a little bit. That's Carmine. That's the and what's his full name again, Sean?
Carmine Apice.
All right, who will be on that show tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock that we talked about earlier from Vanilla Fudge. So that's looking forward to that. So kind of a name of a group with opposites, you know, like Iron Butterfly and Led Zeppelin, and Vanilla, which is white, and Fudge, which is fudge colored. So be it. So welcome back to the Educated Retirement here on KMET, where we will talk about retirement. Well, sometimes we do. We're not going to talk too much more about retirement. We're going to talk about the nostalgia. And our phone number, again, is 866-955-2233, 866-955-2233. And yeah, actually, I do know it, but I'd like to look at it sometimes, too. And remember, we can talk about anything. Bigfoot is on my mind right now, so call me up and we can talk about that. And we can talk about not just reverse mortgages, but any kind of mortgage or any kind of real estate related or non-related. And if it's something I don't do, I'll be able to point you in a direction that will hopefully help. But Dr. Heckham is the website, DRHECM, Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, or the name of this show, theeducatedretirement.com, is also a good way to get a hold of there. Okay, so with Johnny Mercer in the background, that we just finished, let's get on with honorable mentions. And again, honorable mentions are put in that section because they're a little bit shorter to talk about. And I usually put them there because instead of highlighting them, because people seem to know a lot about them. So, and sometimes they're a little younger, sometimes they're not. But here's to everyone as I drink a little coffee. And let's talk about a 58-year-old, just a kid, Jody Foster, who was born in 1962. And boy, we kind of remember her as a kid, don't we? Mm-hmm. Jody is an American actress, director, and producer. She starred in over 37 films, and Foster starred early in her career in several television shows such as Gunsmoke, Daniel Boone, Bonanza, and Ironside. Wow. She has been nominated for 4 Oscars and won 2. 50%, that is a very good. She's batting 500. Both were for Best Actress for Silence of the Lambs and The Accused. I don't remember The Accused. Do you? I don't remember.
Sure.
Silence of the Lambs, of course, a
Yeah.
great film. And that gets, sometimes I don't realize it, but that's usually listed under horror movies. But the first time, I don't know if it's the first time a horror movie won Best Film, but my God, it was good. And she was also in, let's see, speaking of as a child, of course, who can forget this? The visuals in this are something that Scorsese gave us that we will never forget. I think there's some pictures inside here too. We can show those. We can show them sliding by here. We know what that's all about, but she was great in that. And she was also great in another film, Contact. NASA Nelly loves this movie. I think it's really good. It was from a story written by...
Clark?
No. The guy that was on Cosmo. We're going to know it real soon here, and we'll get back to...
Carl Sagan.
Yeah, Carl Sagan. And it was directed by an old friend of the show. Here we have Robert Zemeckis. And there's 2 of them that directed, Robert Zemeckis and Steve Starkey. So be it. And anyway, when I remember the character in Contact that was living on a satellite or someone had his own hotel room that was floating around Earth? What's that?
John Hurt played that
part. Oh, John Hurt played the part. But it reminds me of Robert Bigelow. Because Robert Bigelow does build for NASA and other people these hotel rooms or these places to stay, both for the future of the moon and in outer space. So for some reason, and Robert Bigelow doesn't, I think in the film, the guy was up there because of some kind of a health problem also. And, but I just, somebody that has more money than anybody and is willing to spend it on this kind of thing and is living in outer space, that's Robert Bigelow, who was once the owner of, amongst so much else, Skinwalker Ranch. And I really do like that series, so hope it's coming back soon. Does NASA Nelly know when that series is coming back?
It's coming back. I'm not sure when.
Okay, it's coming back, though, again, but it's pretty cool. And Jean Tierney was born on this day, and she joined us in 1920 and left us in 1991. And I think as a human being, she's almost as good looking as I am. What do you think? Huh? No comment? Anyway, there she is, or was. But there's, one thing pictures do is they turn the was into is for all times. So she was in such great films as, well, this might be the most memorable, Laura. And you know, she was with, you know, Gene Tierney, Dana Andrews, but the guy that stole the show was Clifton Webb, as he usually steals most shows that he's in. And Vincent Price was in it, and Judith Anderson. Why don't you? Judith Anderson from Rebecca fame, as far as I'm concerned. But, and Clifton.
Actually, you know what? Judith Anderson was not the one in Rebecca.
Are you kidding me?
I don't think so.
You better look
Somebody
that
else.
up. You better look that up. Anyway, there's Laura. And here's another film that she was in. Shanghai Gesture. I like this film. I like it a lot. I don't know exactly. It's not going to be a great film, but I like it a lot. It was directed by Joseph von Sternberg. And it was with Gene Tierney, Victor Mature, Ona Munson. Walter Houston was in it. That's, you know, Houston's father.
Oh, she was. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she was. I thought she was. And there you go on that. So Jean Eliza Tierney was an American film and stage actress. She starred in 12 films, but is best known for her role in Laura. And what about the music to Laura? Wow, that's great. David Raskin music. Anyway, the film was nominated for 5 Academy Awards and won 1 for Best Cinematography. So there. And let me see here. I don't know why I need to correct anything here, because it's only the script. Jim Garrison was born November 20th. That's tomorrow. So he's coming to us tomorrow, 1921, and left us in 1991. James Garrison was the district attorney of Orleans Parish. That's the New Orleans area, Louisiana, from 1962 to 1971. So he's best known for his investigation into the assassination of President John F. Kennedy and the prosecution of New Orleans businessman Clay Shaw. Let me have a picture. Oh, man with a pipe. So there is a picture of Garrison. And, oh, here's a bigger picture in full color, also with a pipe. So I guess he used that pipe a lot. And Oliver Stone's film JFK in 1991, in which Garrison was portrayed by Kevin Costner, while Garrison himself made a cameo as Earl Warren. Let's take a quick look at that. And I think we all know that. And it's called Electrifying a Knockout. Is all of it true? Probably not, but some of it was. Is enough of it true? Maybe. But that's a whole different story. And remember, grab the book, Dr. Mary's Monkey, will you, for me quickly, if you don't? If you think there's some kind of conspiracy at all, I'm going to highly recommend the following book. Goes along a completely different path than the JFK. Don't worry too much. It's right. Should be right on top there. But it starred a huge cast, which included Gary Oldman, Kevin Bacon, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, Donald Sutherland, Tommy Lee Jones, Joe Pesci, and Sissy Spacek. The film was nominated for 8 Oscars and won 2 for Best Cinematography and Best Film Editing. Oh, where was it? You went around a long way. Anyway, there's a copy. There's a newer version of it that came out, but this I recommended this to Chris Bissonette because, you know, we talk about conspiracy on the air here. This has a lot to do with President Kennedy, the polio vaccination, Trying to Kill Castro. Really a fascinating book. I highly recommend. Whether you believe in the conspiracy or not, it's still fascinating. I don't think you have to believe in conspiracies to like conspiracies or like to study them or get into them at all. Now, Alistair Cook, also no conspiracy about him. He joined us tomorrow also, 1908, and he left us in 2004. And Cook was an American-British writer, which means he was both American and British, journalist and television personality who was well known in the United States as the host of PBS Masterpiece Theater from 1971 to 1992. And there, yeah, he looks just like he sounds, but of course we used to see him, older version, on Masterpiece Theater, which I used to watch quite a bit of when I wasn't watching much television. That's one show that I would try to pick up on. So there he is, and here he is the way he looked, in my mind anyway, the way he looked on Masterpiece Theater. Great voice also, so it was perfect for that part, that role. Better voice than mine, but you know, we're stuck with me on this show anyway. And what is this? Oh, so he wrote a Memoirs of the Great and the Good. This is a book he wrote. So I didn't know he wrote that book, and I obviously haven't read it, but you know, I think it's worth looking into. There it is, and you can see an older picture of him looking, you know, older in the Masterpiece Theater days. And here's one with slightly more hair, but he's starting to age a bit here. So I think you can see that pretty good. Okay. And Masterpiece Theater was America's longest-running weekly prime-time drama series that debuted in 1971 to actually still going on. So Alistair was the first host. Others that followed more recently for a limited time included Gillian Anderson of X-File fame. She played, of course, Dana Scully. We certainly know her, and I certainly miss that show. In 2008 and 2009, David Tennant, the 10th and one of our favorite Doctor Who's, who was also on the cover. I don't know if we have that anymore, the Monopoly game. He is on the cover. He's on that Monopoly board, which is probably more important than Doctor Who, if there is such a thing. And speaking of Doctor Who do we have here but a Dalek?
Exterminate.
Anyway, as you may or may not know, Doctor Who is a very short-running series that started in 1964 and is still going on today. So Alistair Cook also presented a weekly 15-minute speech radio series on BBC called Letter from America, which he ran from 1946, when I was born, to 2004. That's a long time, making it the longest-running speech radio program hosted by one individual. So with that, and speaking of such important people as Alistair Cook and all the other people we talked about today, we're going to add Rocky and Bullwinkle to that list, because on this day in history, Rocky and his friends in the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle debuted November 18th, 1959. My God, was it that long ago? And of course, oh, somebody trying to call me. Not now. There we go. You know, people try to call every now and then while I'm on the air. And, since I know that everybody on Earth is listening to this show, I can't imagine why they would do that. Rocky and Bullwinkle. Dudley Do-Right. Remember Dudley Do-Right? And who was the bad guy? Oh, Boris and Natasha. Of course, they had to be Russian at the time to be bad guys. This is a laser disc, but double feature, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. And as when I was in my early 20s or whatever, much younger, I remember hanging out on the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles. There used to be a big Bullwinkle statue with Rocky next to him, and every night a bunch of youngsters like myself would hang around and talk, and it would just be they would smoke weird smelling stuff. And I just remember that was a meeting spot for a lot of people, teenagers and young adults in that period of time. And anyway, it's a good memory for me. So this animated series was narrated by William Conrad. Paul Frees, my God, do you remember Paul Frees? We've talked about so many times. And what were some of the things he was on? That's all right.
Kinds of sci-fi films.
Lots
too.
of sci-fi films, well, just tons of stuff. Narrated by William Conrad, Paul Frees, Edward Everett Horton. We sure remember him. What a voice he had, too.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he did a lot of stuff with Fred Astaire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ginger
Yes,
Rogers. He was
yes.
like he was like the comedy guy, the guy that they would always fall off on and, be a contrast. So as a variety show, it starred Rocket J. Rocky Squirrel, the flying squirrel, and Bullwinkle J. Moose, the moose. Other characters were Boris and Natasha, Russian spies, a segment with Dudley Do-Right, a dim-witted but conscientious Canadian Mountie. Nothing down about Canadians. It's the way it was. Canadian mounted policeman always trying to catch villain Snidely Whiplash. Oh, that's right, Snidely Whiplash. I remember that now.
And I got a short excerpt from that. If you hang on just a quick second.
Oh, absolutely.
Here are some words of wisdom from Mr. Know-It-All.
Thank you, Sean. And that's great. So also a part of the show is Peabody's Improbable History. Oh, I remember that now. Mr. Peabody the dog and his boy Sherman traveling in time travelers well ahead of their time, as well as Fractured Fairy Tales. I remember all this stuff's coming back to mind now. Classic fairy tales retold in comic fashion. And as long as we're talking about such important people as that, let's add Abraham Lincoln, who delivered his Gettysburg Address on November 19th, 1863, at the dedication of the Gettysburg National Cemetery. And now we're going to ask NASA Nellie to repeat, to actually recite that. Did you ever have to do that in school or anything? Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I think I forgot it already, but, it was a great speech. It's one of the most famous speeches in United States history, as it explained America's challenges, including slavery, while paying tribute to the men who died in the face of those challenges. And one more thing before we sign off, and maybe have time for a joke too, we'll see. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was released on November 19th, 1975 in New York City. Here's a picture of some of the inmates. Call them inmates for now. After I took my Moderna COVID shots, I felt like the next day I felt like I was a member of that group. And what a doctor told me told me afterwards that if your body does have a large reaction to the shot, it means that it's actually that you needed that your body really recognized it. So, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The film was directed by Milos Forman. I know we have, we couldn't find it. Milos Forman, who also did so many others. And produced by Michael Douglas. And Kirk Douglas originally bought the film rights to the novel, and his son, Michael, eventually took over the project. It starred Jack Nicholson, how could we forget? Louise Fletcher, who has become the iconic bad girl of all time, Scatman Carruthers, Christopher Lloyd, who we talked about before, and Danny DeVito. The film was nominated for 9 Oscars and won 5, including Best Picture. And did you know Christopher Lloyd lived in a mental institution for several weeks and studied the patients to prepare for the film? And real quick here before we go, others that were considered for the part: Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman, Steve McQueen, Burt Reynolds, James Caan, was all offered the role of McMurphy before Jack Nicholson. They all turned it down. I guess they are sorry they did so. But we are out of time, and it's been a pleasure. Let me one more time thank Valerie Vandezilver, Sean, our great engineer, and everyone else. Have a great, great Thanksgiving. Enjoy that weekend coming up. We'll be back on in the middle of that weekend next week, but have a great time. And thanks so much for spending the last 2 hours with us. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.